performance in this one? Start with you, Ian.
I thought they played a tremendous game. I mean, neither one of us thought that they were going to come in there and keep it close, but they've had a great game, had great play calls on offense and defense alike, and like you said, when they just stopped keeping up the pressure, and I believe J.C. Horn was out for a little bit too, and that hurt him a lot, and Stafford was able to get going and start feeling it, because I know he had 2 bad throws that were picks. So I think down to the wire, what came to be the problem for them was Jimmy Horn dropping that ball. I mean, they had a great play call. He was open. He would have gotten the first down. They would have been able to keep going. And Jimmy Horn was the first of a series of bad drops over the weekend that we saw, but that ended up losing them the game.
Yeah. And also there was that should have been interception that Puka Nacua broke up, which was obviously a huge play. And
Right.
Puka Nacua had a great game. Like, you got to give it to him. Stafford, like I said, was erratic, but when he needed to make plays late, he made some good throws. And actually, when we talk about Puka Nacua, he also had the one late in the first half that Puka catches like 9 times out of 10. And I don't know if maybe the ball got to him a little faster. He was a little off balance. It just went off his hands. Like, that was a really great throw from Stafford as well, which obviously would have made the ending a little bit a little bit anticlimactic if they had scored that touchdown. But like, I agree with you. The Panthers, great showing. I like their prospects for next year. I think looking at that division, they could be in a position to win that division again next year. The Falcons are going through a transition, front office and head coaching. The Bucks, I don't know what to expect from the Bucks next year. Like, good luck figuring that team out. They'll be a little bit older, like Evans and those guys. And, Baker was an MVP candidate for a good part of the season and then completely fell off. And it was like, now that's Cleveland Baker almost. But Damien, I knew you were going to be in here pretty early. So,
absolutely. It's all good. It's all good. Good win. Good win.
Right.
And I know Jalen Coker, I mean, he had a fantastic game. And for only being a second-year guy, I mean, they've got a lot of good prospects going on for Carolina. I mean, Tedoroa McMillan, you've got Jalen Coker. Bryce Young's finally coming into his own and actually having pretty good games. I mean, we all kind of thought that he was going to be a bust after the first couple of seasons in the NFL, him not quite cutting it. But this year he really kind of emerged and settled into himself and put up a couple of great games that got them into the spot where they could be in the playoffs, even though they lost their last 2. I mean, they put up a great fight against the Rams.
Yeah. And Brett, a question for you. Because of Bryce Young's performance, we know the team has picked up his 5th-year option. If you were the Panthers, how would you handle Bryce Young? Because like Ian said, he struggled early in his career. This year was a bit of a bounce back year. In the playoff game, I agree. He made a lot of great plays. He looked very confident. He was using his legs. How would you approach like an extension with him? Would you give him one? What would you do with Bryce Young?
I'd give him one, but I think one thing with Bryce Young is I don't think he's a quarterback that you can pay feasibly $50 million.
Okay.
And up. I think that would end up being an extension that falls along the lines of, the kind of in the territory of, why'd you do that? I think he's a good quarterback and he can elevate his game at certain points, but there's just too much inconsistency and struggles to pay him that much. And I don't think you can build a proper team around Bryce Young. And I don't think Bryce Young's the guy who can consistently carry your offense for stretches when needed, what you'd expect out of a $50 million quarterback. So I definitely would give him one. I do think he's earned himself a nice pay increase. But as soon as he starts coming with like, hey, I want let's just say 3 years, 150 or 3 years, 160, I'm balking at that because I think he's good. I think he's got talent, but I think it'd be a mistake to give him like top of the market quarterback money.
Okay. I guess Ian, how would you feel about extending out Bryce Young or not? Or would you move on after the 5th year option?
I would probably extend him for like 2 years, test it out, maybe give him around like 20 million a year. That way you're really testing it, see if you can actually build a team around him and give him everything that he needs to be successful. And as long as you're doing everything that you can as a head coach, as an organization, to make sure that Bryce Young can lead an offense, you get him a right head coach, you get a good OC, you get complementary players around him. I think that if you give him a 2-year extension and he proves himself, then you could go from there. But at least give him the 2 years to actually like prove himself and come into his own and show that he can be what this team needs. I don't think they need to go any more than 2 years because, like Brett said, it's just with the inconsistencies from him. I wouldn't see going higher than 2 years as being a feasible option for a team that has had so much struggle in the past.
So I think the most I would maybe go with him 3 years. Say I would maybe throw. I think the most I'd be comfortable offering him is maybe like give him like 35, 40 would be top end of what I'd give Bryce, but anything over that for me, it gets dicey. I think he's a talent. I think he's a great talent. Definitely earned that paycheck, but we'll see how much is on that paycheck very shortly, I think.
Okay. So I know, Ian, you mentioned getting him a head coach. Damien says get him a real head coach. Canales was a guy that I believe was in the spotlight going into the year. Job was probably in jeopardy. So because of the playoff appearance, would you maybe marry him and Bryce Young together? Like if you gave Young a 3-year contract, would you kind of give Canales a bit more rope, or would you move off of Canales if you weren't necessarily a fan of his and probably don't view this year as enough to keep him and try to get one of these coaches that are out there? Because we're seeing some of the names that are out there. Do you think you could do a lot better than Canales? Like how, I guess, once again, if you're the Panthers, do you reward Canales for this year or do you try to replace him?
So the thing that I think that a lot of people forget is that continuity is very important for developing players. And Canales, moving on from Canales, I don't think is going to help Bryce Young develop. I think it's only going to hurt him. You're going to bring in a new head coach that's going to have new ideas for his development, and it's just going to set him back further. He's come a long way this year, and so I think that you need to stick with Canales, maybe get a different OC. I mean, their play calling wasn't horrible, but maybe get something that's more centered around Bryce Young's talent and then go from there. And like I said, just give him all the tools that he needs. I mean, what they did with Caleb is a perfect example of, all right, well, we're giving you everything that you need to be a successful play caller and give you a great offense. Let's see if you can actually do it. Not everybody can do that, but if they at least put forth the effort and say, hey, we've got you, we went out in free agency, we got you some offensive linemen, we drafted some more depth at wide receiver, tight end, whatever it may be, as long as they're giving him tools to be successful and keep that continuity going and see where he goes from here, I think that's all that they can really do is put their best foot forward with him and make sure that they keep the progression going.
Okay. Yeah, Brett, you sold on Canales or?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think the second part of it is right. Who are you going to get that's better? You can go, well, Harbaugh's out there, Stefanski's out there. The problem is there's also just more appealing jobs out there. Like, would you rather go to Carolina, or you could go to even like Tennessee? You got Cam Ward, you have $100 million in cap space to play with and a premium lottery pick. You can go to New York, that's got a lot of, premier talent on the defensive line, Jackson Dart. Or obviously this isn't a Harbaugh destination, but even a team like Baltimore, a lot of these coaches, if you're like a Stefanski or someone, you got Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, you do have talent on the defensive side of the football. I don't think any of these top coaching candidates would be jumping at the opportunity to come to Carolina over, the places I just mentioned. I think their best bet is absolutely just keep Canales. If you extend Bryce, extend Canales for the same amount of time, and if things go off the rails, then get rid of both of them at the same time. But if anything, I'm definitely keeping Canales for another couple years.
Right. And I mean, he did sign, I believe it was like a 5-6 year deal. So he obviously has years left on the contract. I just know like a lot of people weren't necessarily fans of him going into the year. So just picking your brain to see where you were at. Hands get Mike McCarthy, who knows how to develop quarterbacks.
He's not wrong, actually. Say, we got to remember with Mike, he had a huge hand in developing guys like Aaron Rodgers, him and Tom Clement.
Mm-hmm.
And like the offense was fine under McCarthy. McCarthy's problem is at times he's just a questionable play caller in key moments. It's with McCarthy though. He's somebody that's a safe floor that can I think he can help develop some of the young guys. So, but if the options are Mike McCarthy or another year of a couple of years of Canals, I would just see what Canals has got at that point.
I mean, look, I think the same way we could look at this as a big stepping stone for Bryce Young, I think for Canales as a coach, it could be, a bit of development for him, and maybe he's a better coach next year as well. I just want to see what Carolina does with this momentum now. I hope they, make some moves in the offseason to kind of fortify what they've established. And, why not dominate the NFC South for a little run here? I mean, it seems like you're in a pretty good position to do so. But let's go to the second game that happened on Saturday, which, Brett, I know you were locked in for Bears-Packers, where it was another game where you had guys going for a fourth down, we had missed kicks, we got Ben Johnson letting everybody know he can't stand Green Bay. Look, I think that's great for the rivalry. As long as he and LaFleur, which I guess we'll talk about in a little bit, are there, I think it's going to be fun when they match up just the bad blood that clearly Ben Johnson has for the team. Look, we already know Packers fans can't stand the Bears either. But when you watch that game, I guess what was your takeaway of Caleb Williams' performance? Because he made some great plays with his legs. He made some throws. I guess basically what does that do for you, I guess, when looking at Caleb Williams and kind of his progression over the course of the year?
You know what's funny? This was a game I got over rather quickly, right?
Okay.
So, right, because Damien, the problem is I don't think you know the Packers as well as I do. When we were up 21-3, and Kyle can attest to that, around 9:04 at night, I sent a message to the group chat going, Bears got us exactly where they want us. Mm-hmm. Because you knew what was coming. And sure enough, exactly what I said happened. Matt LaFleur all of a sudden got really complacent play calling. The Bears played all 4 quarters. The Packers played like 3.5 quarters, maybe 3. They didn't really do anything in the third quarter. So when it comes to Caleb Williams, it wasn't his best game, but he made plays when it mattered. And I think that's key. He almost reminded me like a lot of Eli Manning in a sense that you see him struggle for the first 3 quarters, but when you really need him to step up in key moments during some of Eli's playoff runs, you saw him do just that. I thought, like I said, Caleb was up and down, but I'll give him all the credit in the world. At the end of the day, when the Bears needed him to step up and make plays, he delivered. So I thought some of these, especially those throws in the fourth, he was making on the run, dropping it in the basket. Overall, just an absolutely incredible talent. He is somebody that before the year started, I told everybody would be a top 10 quarterback. And I think he's proved me right throughout the year. So I'll take pride in the fact that Caleb's balling.
So Ian, I'll just let you know, I'm only laughing at this because you're new to the Damien experience. Damien is a guy who was a big Justin Fields fan. Just a few weeks ago, he was tooting Justin Fields' horn saying, They'd be better off with him than Caleb. And now, apparently, Damian is a Caleb Williams guy. So, Damian, I appreciate you finally, I guess, coming around on Caleb Williams.
That did confuse me, Damian. Like we literally watched Justin Fields struggle in like 2 different places after he left Chicago. Like I was so lost when you were trying to let's say that Fields was better than Williams, but
Okay. But yeah, so Ian, I guess what grade would you give Caleb Williams' first playoff start? Yes, it was at home, but that's still a big moment for him. So what grade would you give him?
I'd say I give him a B plus. I mean, like Brett said, he did struggle very early in that game and could not really put a drive together other than that one where they got a field goal. But I think after he got the nerves out of him and came out of that second half huddle or after the half huddle, and he just hit the ground running.
Mm-hmm.
He was going on the run, using his legs, dropping it in the basket. They were calling exactly the right plays to go against Green Bay's defense. Green Bay was not covering the middle of the field, and they just exploited the hell out of it. They kept targeting Colston Loveland, and he had a great game as well. And the Packers just didn't have an answer for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a great game. I thought it was a great environment. I feel like that was something that we definitely saw. Playoff crowds, especially NFL crowds, are just different like that. I think for the Bears fans, it was probably kind of like Damian. You feel like this is a team that they can finally kind of get behind. They had a good offseason after a few off seasons where you're kind of scratching your head. They supported their quarterback getting guys on the O-line. They drafted guys on the O-line. They given them weapons to throw to. Like they have a decent running game. You know, maybe the bad luck the Bears have been going through could finally be over. And they have a good coach, it seems like. Now looking at the Packers, I guess how much do you like panic or overreact to the way the season ended and now this playoff loss? Do you get rid of LaFleur? Because that's obviously the biggest question. Does LaFleur stay? You know, some guys on the panel after the game were like, oh, you can't fire him. You know, we have other people who are like, been there, done that with LaFleur and this, kind of over it, and you move off of him. So, yeah, like I said, how big do you react to this? Do you just go widespread changes? You run it back? We'll start with you, Ian, since Brett, it is your team. We'll start with you, Ian. Do you fire LaFleur after this flame out?
That one's tough because I know LaFleur has taken over play calling and has made some horrible play calls for the Packers. I mean, early in the season when he just ran 3 straight inside zones, that was LaFleur genius, I guess. But I don't necessarily think that the Packers need to let him go. I think that they need somebody that can come in and dominate as an offensive coordinator and just take that away from him and let LaFleur just coach. LaFleur's not a bad coach. I think he's gone a little stale with his play calling, and now it's become predictable for other defenses. And I think just the change of getting a better offensive coordinator would be substantial for them. And yeah, they really need a kicker.
Okay, Brett. So I guess let us know, as a Packers fan, your off-season plan for your team.
So I think let me like slightly tweak Ian's wording because I think he nailed part of it, but it's not play calling that he struggles with. It's situational play calling. Matt LaFleur is still one of the best play designers in football. He drew up still a lot, even in that second half, a lot of good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when you really need him to draw up something in, clutch time, he panics. Anytime he gets drugged to the deep waters, he panics. He panics hard. emulates that better than him calling a timeout and still not getting a play into a point where we took a delay of game after a timeout. Like, just completely inexcusable. So, look? I'm already like assuming LaFleur's going to be back. If I know the Packers, he's coming back. But if he does come back, then they need to take away. They need to give somebody else a final say on who's on his coaching staff. That feels like it's the downfall of the Packers, like every year. Let's go get him a real OC so he doesn't have to worry about trying to call plays and coaching. All right, you know what? I'm willing to run it back with Hafley if he doesn't get the head coaching job. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Special teams. Let's get some actual special teamers on the roster and get rid of Rich Bisaccia. He is the highest paid special teams coach in the league.
Mm-hmm.
In the league. And I still don't know what he does. And I say he is maybe the worst thing to happen to Green Bay since Joe Barry. He might be the worst thing to happen to the state of Wisconsin since Joe Barry and Doc Rivers. And you can send Doc packing with them. So if one thing I also like get annoyed with about Matt LaFleur, lack of accountability. So we've watched this special teams blow game after game after game after game. This year, we had like 5 losses that you can equate back to special teams, whether it be the Bears game, the Browns game, the Cowboys tie. What did Matt LaFleur have to say about special teams after we lost not this matchup to the Bears, but the last one? Well, I think our special teams have done a pretty good job, especially if you look at our coverage units. We're sound at what we do. You know that's not true. Come on now. If Matt LaFleur is going to stay, I need him to actually hold people accountable. Like, for example, what happened when Sean McVay's special teams were struggling just last month? Special teams coach was gone, and they brought in somebody else. I need him to hold people accountable. Rashawn Gary, you want to jog on plays? Go sit on the bench. You can jog all you want on the sidelines. You can do some eye legs. Do some sit-ups. Doesn't matter. But there were multiple times during the Bears game where I'm watching Rashawn Gary just jogging after Caleb Williams. Keyshawn Nixon, you want to make a business decision on the goal line? Go make a decision. Go make a business decision at the end of the bench. I need Matt LaFleur, if he comes back, to hold people accountable. He doesn't get to pick his coaches for special teams anymore. That clearly needs to go. He needs an actual OC, and if he's too stubborn to listen, going to have to make the decision for him. So it's one of those things where I think Matt LaFleur is a good coach, but he puts too much on his plate. And of course, the biggest problem, Brandon McManus has to go. Ship him to Siberia for all I care. I don't care. Send him anywhere. Just he cannot be the kicker of the Green Bay Packers next year. This is the guy who couldn't hit between 40 and 49 yards in the regular season. This is why, like, for all those kicks he missed, I really don't want to hear, well, Matt LaFleur can't, you can't make him hit those kicks. You're right. But when you're 3 of 7 going into the game on kicks between 40 and 49 yards, you can make a choice of if he's on the playoff roster or not. So I don't want to hear that, oh, well, McMahon, he can't make McManus make these kicks. You're right. He can't. But he had a choice. And he chose to keep him on the roster. It goes back to that whole accountability speech. Matt LaFleur needs to actually start holding these people accountable. And if he doesn't want to do that, well, guess what? Next head coaching cycle, we can just look for a different coach. No biggie. Because we're getting to a point where there is a large body of work to suggest that Matt LaFleur is still one of the best play callers in the NFL, but maybe he's just not that great of a head coach until he proves otherwise. Maybe the people who are saying that he was an Aaron Rodgers merchant were correct. He's 37-30 ever since leaving Aaron Rodgers left town. So I think he has the most to prove, but he's not going to prove anything if he just runs it back with the same culture and the same lack of accountability as this year. So, we got the franchise quarterback. We're getting Micah back. We got great talent at receivers. We got talent on defense. Granted, I do think that we need to add some depth on the edge and we need to add some cornerbacks for sure. But all of that really doesn't matter if Matt LaFleur is just going to melt down as soon as he gets drug into deep waters and make bad roster choices going into the postseason.
Okay. I mean, like I said, that's definitely fair. And, as somebody who obviously is a Patriots fan, but doesn't hate the Packers. Like, I'm a big Jordan Love fan. With all that went on in that game, all the madness with the missed kicks and everything, like, he had the ball, game on the line, and he made some throws that, a couple of receivers dropped. That doesn't happen. We could be having a different conversation today. So I do kind of think it would be a bit of a panic move to just move off of LaFleur, but some pressure does have to be put on him because you can't go through this every year where, there's games that were like, hey, stick being aggressive and all that, and they kind of pull it back. Like that's go ahead.
No, absolutely. And when it comes to when it comes to Jordan Love, I see a lot of people going, "Oh, look, he lost. He's not the franchise quarterback." Guys, wins and losses aren't a quarterback stat. Guess what? For 4 quarters, Jordan Love was the best quarterback on that field. Caleb Williams and the Bears won the game because they were the better team. To me, it was pretty obvious, though, that we had the better quarterback. It just unfortunately didn't go his way. But I don't want to hear this idea that Jordan Love isn't the franchise quarterback because they lost the game.
Mm-hmm.
He played a hell of a game, and on that last drive, had 2 drops. Christian Watson misplay a ball that would have put us inside the 5. A injury that, by the way, Matt LaFleur also just wasted the one timeout we had, and the one drop would have put us inside the 20 with 5 seconds left. We had an injury that ran another 10 seconds, took like 2 plays off, put our third-string center in the game for the final play. So there's just so many things that went wrong that I think if you want to watch that game and you want to put it all on Jordan Love, just stop talking ball because you didn't watch the same game. You're a terrible evaluator of what went wrong in a football game and a terrible evaluator of football if you want to blame Jordan Love for that loss. So, like I said, congratulations to the Bears. You deserve the win. But also, if you think Jordan Love was the reason that they lost that game, stop talking football because you just have no idea what you're talking about.
What's up, weekend wingman? Bringing Morton Anderson out of retirement before I start McManus.
Brother, I will run with no kicker on the roster before McManus. I'll just go for 2 every time, 4th and whatever. We're going. Like, I don't care. Like, it can't be McManus. Like, if Kyle wants to be the kicker of the Green Bay Packers, I'll take him over McManus.
Oh, yes, he definitely had a rough day. It would be hard to tell Packers fans that he's going to be your kicker next year. So I agree. They got to do something there.
I don't know if I'd watch the team if McManus was the kicker next year.
Topic, we addressed this earlier. It's quite the development. Apparently, Damien's come around on Caleb Williams, but he still really likes Justin Fields. We're trying to clarify it ourselves. And topic, look, same way Damien had great timing coming in because we talked about the Bears. We're gonna go Sunday. And our day started Sunday with the Bills and the Jags. And this is the game, we talked about it last week, that I said that was probably the game I did not really know clearly which way it was going to go. Like, I did pick the Bills to win, but I could have seen the Jags win it. Like, there were 2 teams that, the Jags had a lot of momentum going into the postseason, but, Trevor has limited playoff experience. That's always a thing. Playoff games are just that much bigger that you just don't know how some of these guys will perform. Buffalo's kind of like limping in because Josh Allen had the foot injury. Plus, they had some other injuries kind of around him on the offensive side of the ball. So just didn't know. Well, it looked like for a while the Jags were going to win it, move on, if Buffalo was going to head into their offseason a little bit early. but Josh Allen had the ball late in the game. He drove the team down. They scored the touchdown, which gave Trevor Lawrence a chance to have a playoff moment to lead the team down the field. Throws a pick. Now, it was, great defense by, I think, was it Tre'Davious White who got his hand in there, tipped it, and it was intercepted. Tre'Davious White had a really good game. Looking at it, if you're Jacksonville, I guess where do you go from here? Because I do think it was a big year for Trevor Lawrence. He needed a bounce back season. I know Top is ready to get rid of him. Top is already throwing out there. Well, I already saw you shake your head to this one. Like we know that's not happening. but is Trevor Lawrence a franchise quarterback? Can he lead a team to the Super Bowl? Or do you need more evidence? Start with you, Ian.
Oh man, I really don't think that Trevor Lawrence is a bad quarterback. I just think that when it's time to make the plays and make the correct reads to get his team into a position to win a game, especially when the lights are the brightest, that's where he struggles the most. And you can't have that as a franchise guy. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's the same guy that he was at Clemson. He's not proven to be anything close to what he was in college. But that being said, he also had a great season this year under Liam Cohen. Their offense looked great. Their defense was great. I think this is just a bad decision that Trevor made this year. I don't think it's anything necessarily to panic or worry about, but I still don't think he's a franchise guy. I think he's not going to get him to the Super Bowl. He's not going to win him a Super Bowl. He could get them to a winning record, win the division, but that's about as far as he'll take him.
Okay. Brett, is Trevor Lawrence a franchise quarterback?
He isn't until he proves he is, right? Like, we're running into a situation now with Trevor Lawrence where he's proven he can get Jacksonville to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But now anytime he gets there, he just underperforms. The first matchup, he underperformed in the first half, but then he kind of didn't. And then he had a really good game against the Chiefs, so now you're running into a situation. It's kind of like what I said about Jordan Love before we got into the playoffs, right? I said this will be a very telling game because it's been kind of up and down. And, Jordan Love delivered. The same situation with Trevor Lawrence. This was good. This will be a situation where this will be a very telling game. And when the lights were the brightest, he didn't deliver. Nothing shows that more than the last interception of the game. Mm-hmm. He had Parker Washington wide open for at worst a massive game, but most likely a walk-in touchdown. But he just kind of hit the panic button too early and tried to force a throw that was never there. So I think T-Law has talent, but I think T-Law just might end up being closer to Kirk Cousins than an actual franchise quarterback. Somebody who's going to be, a quality quarterback. He's going to make a lot of money, but you don't look at him and go, that's a franchise guy. So I think he's talented, but I think he's starting to feel more like a really more closer to not a franchise quarterback than.
Okay. Let's see. So Jory says T-Law's done, which Tapa says he. All right. Not excusing this defense. Listen, I'm one of the few non-biased fans that root for this team. Never had faith in my defense. We need secondary help, and Josh Hines Allen is overrated. Okay. I mean, look, I thought Trevor Lawrence coming into the this playoff, sprint to the Super Bowl had a good amount of pressure on him. And I thought with the game yesterday, I came out of that thinking kind of the same I thought about him. Not the biggest Trevor Lawrence fan. I don't think he'll live up to kind of the remarks and everything coming out of Clemson, where a lot of people thought he was that type of guy that you tank your season to go get because he's going to be this generational talent in the NFL. Haven't seen it yet. I don't think we're ever going to see it. That's not, it's not to say he can't be like a winning quarterback, but if I'm expecting Trevor Lawrence to just, take my squad to a Super Bowl and go out and win it, I don't think he's that kind of guy. And I guess we'll see how much, Jacksonville kind of feels about that, because he's a guy that, you're coming up on having to really make some decisions about, because you don't want to just be here in like 5-6 years with Trevor Lawrence still back there. And you're like, could we not have improved upon this guy? Because I agree. I think they have some pieces that they could be successful in the next few years. But, are they just going to turn to a team that, sure, they might win a couple of AFC South crowns, good for them, but they don't ever really feel like a true AFC contender. At that point, you're kind of in purgatory. And like I said, I know you're a big Jags fan. You're done with him. I wonder how much of your fan base feels the same. Because some may look at this season and go, get Trevor a few more pieces, and he can get us there. I just don't know if he's that kind of guy. He was 18 for 30 for 207, QBR of 30, and a rating of 86.4, which, if you contrast that to Josh Allen, 28 for 35, 273, 87 QBR, and a 108.7 rating. So, Josh Allen had a great day. Got to give it to him. Let's see. Well, we'll get on Buffalo, I guess, when we look at the divisional round. The next game was, all right, Eagles fans, if you're out there, I'm expecting a lot of y'all to probably have a lot to say. So this is me gearing you up. Niners, Eagles. Once again, talked about this last week. Two teams that don't like each other. Fan bases can't stand each other. Going to this matchup, Eagles had a lot of pressure on them, especially offensively, to show like the team that we think they could be with the names that they have on that side of the ball. Once again, a bit of a struggle. Jalen Hurts, 20 for 35 for 168, a 40 QBR, and a 79.2 rating. Saquon had 106 yards rushing, so he had a pretty good day. Devontae Smith, 8 catches. A.J. Brown only had 3 catches, but he only had 25 yards. We saw A.J. Brown drop some passes late. We saw the little exchange between him and Sirianni, which, whether you think it's a big deal or not, it is what it is. Will A.J. Brown be a Philadelphia Eagle when the season kicks off for next season? Or does he have to go?
He'll be an Eagle.
Okay.
He'll be a Philadelphia Eagle. The Eagles saved negative $20 million by trading him and getting rid of him this year. Like, even if it's for financial purposes, this year he'll be an Eagle. It's easier to get rid of the problem, right? The problem was stagnant, predictable play calling. I think that, we can talk about, Jalen Hurts, if he, but I think the biggest thing to make AJ happy, I'll say it's easier to get rid of the play caller than AJ right now. So I think, Kevin Patullo will be gone. And guess what? If you get a new play caller that gets AJ more involved, he gets him the ball often, and he's still not happy, 2027, you can get out of that contract. So, like I said, but I think as far as this year's concerned, he's definitely an Eagle.
Okay. In the Sear division. Is A.J. Brown a Philadelphia Eagle at the start of next season?
I think if you're the Eagles, you want to keep him, but I think it all depends on what AJ is going to do after this game. AJ could go out, and he was not happy this year at all with the Eagles. He complained all the time about not getting the ball. They have a lot of talent on their offense. They have Saquon. They've got Devonta. Goddard's great. He demands the ball being a good wide receiver. He's a number one wide receiver, but he also have Devonta Smith on the other side. Dallas Goedert's coming to his own. You've got Saquon. There are so many mouths to feed on that offense. He's got to either decide, all right, I'm complacent with my spot and be a team player, or get out. And he could go somewhere that's not even a contender. But I think, like Brett said, the biggest problem with them wasn't just his drops. It was Kevin Patullo. He's not calling great plays. They took a timeout, drew up 4 verts, and sent it into quadruple coverage. I mean, that was a bad decision by Jalen Hurts to just throw it into quadruple coverage right in the middle. You had 4 49ers right there. I just throw it up to AJ and see if he can come down with it. But it's also a horrible play call by Patullo.
It was the Madden play. You know, 4 birds were going to audible the tight end and the slot to an in-breaking route. But, I don't really necessarily blame Hurts that much for that final throw. Like, should he have thrown it? Probably not. But also, I don't know where he's going with that football. Like, the best chance you have is a jump ball, and that probably has like a 15% completion chance. Well, probably way less than that. Like, at least send somebody. Ironically, this is a team that ran 48 hitch routes on Sunday. At least like a hitch route or something underneath to hold one of the linebackers and give yourself a chance. And it's like the play before this too, the one where Devonta Smith maybe could have caught it. It was a little bit of a high throw, but he dropped it. You know what makes that easier? If you send A.J. Brown on like a corner route to clear out the weak side safety, instead he runs like a post, which brings the safety, directly into the line of action and allows him to, just break down and make a play on it. So definitely the first order of business when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles is Kevin Patullo, pack your bags. So you are not getting another offensive coordinator job. I'm not even going to say with the Eagles. Just I don't think he finds a coaching job after this. It was that bad.
Yeah, I agree. I think Eagles fans have been on Patullo's neck for a while. I find it hard to believe the organization brings him back, knowing how the fan base is and how they would react to that. Like I just think the evidence is there. You need a different guy calling plays, and don't get somebody in-house. Go outside, get an OC, bring in somebody with a different mindset on how to use these players, and I think they could be very well back in the same position next year. Still a very talented team on paper. It's just that this was a drama-filled season that probably ended the way it probably was destined to. It's just much more questions to ask than answers. Let's see. Browns, Raiders shooting the Bills. Pats could use a receiver like A.J. Brown. And look, I've already seen the stories from these NFL people who are already putting out potential landing spots for A.J. Brown, and it's a lot of these teams that Slim and Sammy brought up. It's going to be the talk of the offseason. What did the Eagles do with A.J. Brown? Does A.J. Brown want to stay there? What team could go get him? Like, just be prepared. It's an A.J. Brown offseason.
One of those things, like, I agree. Those are some good spots for him. I just don't see the Eagles trading him and, eating $20 million this year. Well, you can just wait a year if you really want to trade him and then get out of the contract at a much better number. Like, I just don't. It could happen, but at the same time, I just don't see it from a financial perspective. Like I said, after this year, if you wanna get out from under that contract, great. But this year, it required the Eagles to eat, a $20 million. Like, they would lose $20 million. They wouldn't save any money. Like, I don't think it's worth it for them.
Okay. Like I said, we'll see. Howie Roseman, has the cachet that if he did it, I feel like very few would question it. But like you said, numbers are numbers. It may not make enough sense to do it this year. I got one more game left. Sunday night. My squad went up against the Chargers against Jim Harbaugh, who I like a lot. I like Justin Herbert. But Justin Herbert's going to need a lot of attention today. That man took a beating from the minute that New England decided to stop sitting back and just attacking him. Like, he was getting hit play after play. He was sacked, at least 6 times, hit a few dozen others. Like, at the end, he was just laying on the ground getting hit. And I was just like, at this point, just lay there. Let the medical staff come out, drag you off, put the backup in there. Like, you're not going to win the game, and you're just out here risking your life. But, and look, this is very true. We knew going in, missing his tackles. But much like the Eagles fans questioning their OC, I think Chargers fans have a legit gripe with Greg Roman. And Spillane and a few other Patriots players said that some Chargers players said that they didn't know what the Patriots were doing defensively. That's a problem. Well, I will say the Patriots did do a little bit more man zone than they did all season. So maybe the Chargers weren't prepared for that. I get that. You have 4 quarters that you see what's going on. Roman, somebody had to be like, you know what? Let's change our little game plan and let's try something else. They didn't. It was like they were just hitting their head against the brick wall. They also, early in the game, had opportunities to take the points, get a lead, and they didn't do it. They failed on a 4th down where Herbert was incomplete, rolling out to his right. Then the other one, I can't remember how they turned it over, but turnover on downs. And now looking back at it, people are questioning Justin Herbert. So if I ask this question about Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert is now 0-3 in the playoffs. He's lost to C.J. Stroud, to Trevor Lawrence, and now Drake May. Obviously, they don't go one-on-one, but I'm just saying, young quarterbacks and all that. Is Justin Herbert a franchise quarterback? And I'll give you his numbers if you just need a little refresher. He was 19 for 31. He was sacked 6 times. QBR of 25 and a rating of 74.5. So is Justin Herbert a franchise quarterback?
I think he's trending in the same direction as Trevor Lawrence. Maybe, probably not. Here's the thing, right? I know we can talk about the offensive line this game, and they were putrid. Let me put it that way. The funniest thing that happened after the game is me seeing a quote today that Bradley Bosman comes out, the center, and goes, "Yeah, I think I played pretty solid last year. Like, brother, you were ranked the 41st best center in the NFL out of 41 centers. What do you mean you played solid?" So here's the thing, though, with Justin Herbert. He's kind of in the same boat where it seems like when the moment gets bright, he doesn't deliver. Was his line bad? Yes. Did he miss a lot of plays that he normally makes? Yes. If you want to argue that that's an extension of his line this game, I'll buy it. I give him a lot of grace for this game. But we saw him meltdown against the Texans. Saw him meltdown against Jacksonville. He needs to put together at least at this point, probably give me 3 games where even if you lose, I can look at that game and go, well, that's not really his fault. There's not much more he could do. Because even last night, I think, I don't think it was mainly his fault. It's another game where wins and losses aren't a quarterback stat. But I thought there's a lot of throws that he missed. The yards were left on the table. There was more that he could do. So Justin Herbert's weird in the sense that he has all the tools to be a franchise quarterback. But at the end of the day, I don't think he's proven that he's one. I want him to be one. That'd be great. But I don't think he's proven he's one. I think he's heading in the same direction as Trevor Lawrence, where, look, you're a very good quarterback. You're going to be in the league a long time. You're going to make a lot of money. But when it comes to leading a team on a deep playoff run and possibly hosting the Lombardi, sorry, you're going to probably be closer to Kirk Cousins territory than actual Super Bowl winner territory, if that makes sense.
Okay. Ian, Herbert, a franchise QB or not?
So my dad's a big Oregon Ducks fan, and so I've watched Herbert all in college, got to know him pretty well and see his game in college, and then really excited for him coming into the NFL. I was actually hoping the Giants would take Herbert, but instead they took Daniel Jones the year prior, so we didn't get Herbert. But anyway, he's struggled a lot in his career, and he does have all the tools, to be a great franchise quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Like Brett said, he missed throws yesterday that cost them yards and would have gotten them to even build up some sort of momentum against the Patriots. I mean, that line, we look at the line that he had. I mean, Jamari Slayer was 61st out of 89 tackles. Zion Johnson's 51st out of 81 guards. Bradley Bozeman's 40 out of 40. Mekhi Becton's 79 out of 81. Trey Pipkins is 84 out of 89. Like, this is not a good offensive line. If you're Greg Roman, you're designing plays that are going to be quick. You need to get your quarterback some momentum and get these quick completions to get him comfortable and started in this game. And that was a fail on Greg Roman. But there were times when Herbert should have made throws that he did not. And that's on him. So I think until he can actually win a couple games in the playoffs and prove that he does belong there, I don't really see him being that great of a quarterback.
Okay. I'm one of those who I like Justin Herbert. I can agree with Slam and Sammy. Like, he has the measurables to be great. I thought this Chargers team was, a pretty good team, especially when early in the year we had Quentin Johnston making plays that he wasn't making last year. I think he could be an important piece to whatever the Chargers have going on. I think with Herbert, the questions will always be the injuries, because it feels like that's something that's been attached with him more so than a lot of other quarterbacks. There's always like injuries around him that we almost give Herbert a pass when they don't have the season that they potentially could have. And my thing is, look, I like Herbert. I think Herbert is a franchise quarterback, but I also think we have to start kind of holding Herbert accountable as well. Because I found it funny that I was like looking at some of the quarterbacks going into the playoffs, and I was like, we get on Josh Allen, we get on Lamar, we get on Burrow, get on Mahomes even, and a bunch of other guys, Jalen Hurts, all over the place. And it's like you never hear conversations about Herbert. Maybe it's because he's out in LA and we just forget about him. But I think that he needs to be dragged into these conversations now. That's not me saying that he's a bum or anything, but well, I guess not everybody's happy that you're rocking the Giants gear. So I think Herbert will be okay, but they got to get that O-line, and they need a healthy year out of Alton Slater. Like, clearly, they need that. But, yeah, I think he's a franchise quarterback. Okay, so before I guess we go into the divisional round and looking at those matchups really quickly, we do have one more game tonight. Texans and the Steelers. Obviously, last week we did predict who we have winning it. I believe you and I, Ian, have Houston, and I think Brett has Pittsburgh. So we got that out of the way.
Cowboys fan. That's why he's going after you.
I mean, it makes sense. Look, appreciate the divisional hate. I'm always a fan of that. One day maybe we'll get a Jets fan in here who hates that I'm a Patriots fan. They're all hiding. I get it because their team stinks, but the invitation's there. Looking at the game tonight, what is the biggest X factor that decides who wins and loses? So I guess, Ian, what's the biggest factor for why the Texans will win tonight? Brett, it will be the biggest factor for why the Steelers win tonight.
I think the biggest factor for the Texans tonight is going to be what kind of defense is going to show up for that Texans team. We saw like the past couple of games the Texans have kind of gotten complacent on defense and haven't really been as aggressive as they've been earlier in the season. And so if they don't come out hard against the Steelers and play the defense that they played the majority of the season, I think this could go either way. If the Steelers come out and have great play calls.
I love that answer.
Great reasoning. I love it.
I mean, if the Steelers come out, and they start scheming for DK Metcalf and get Rodgers going early, and Texans aren't playing their normal defense, this could be over and done with really quick. Because from what I've seen out of CJ Stroud this year is that he tends to struggle sometimes, especially against better pass rush teams. And the Steelers do have a good pass rush. And so if the Steelers hit home on their defense too, this is going to be a close game. And I think it's going to come down to who the better quarterback is. And if that's the case, then I think Aaron Rodgers would take it. But
yeah. So Brett, biggest X factor for the Steelers to win tonight?
Say the biggest X factor, to me, it's going to be Cam Hayward getting going. I think it's going to be Highsmith getting going. Say, Cam Hayward, PFF grade, best defensive tackle in football this year. Whether you agree with that, I do think it's a good indicator of how impactful he was. They had Highsmith in the top 15 of linebackers. I think it'll be a challenge to keep those guys out of the backfield. And we've seen this Texans offense get mucked up. And I think the big X factor will be really simple. Can the Texans keep Cam Hayward out of the backfield? Say, you can make CJ Stroud uncomfortable. You can muck up this Texans offense with some interior pressure. I think that Cam Hayward ends up wrecking this game for the Texans and keeps it close. I think offensively speaking, this is where the biggest challenge is, right? How do you score against this Texans defense? Well, it's going to take a little bit of luck. Quite frankly, if we're being honest, this is an elite run defense. This is an elite pass defense. I think the key with the offense is you can't let them speed you up, and you can't turn the ball over.
Mm-hmm.
You got to play quick, precise. I'm sure we'll see a lot of quick hitters. I think this will be very resemblant to if you watch the 2015 Packers. They didn't have a run game. What did Rodgers do? Him and McCarthy implemented a bit of a West Coast offense where it was just get the ball out quick, get the ball out quick. I think you'll see a lot of that again. I think this can be a game where, guess what? We're going to get the ball out quick. We're going to attack with the tight ends. We're going to attack with Gainwell. We're going to go after these linebackers. Cornerbacks are stout. I do think at the end of the day, it's going to be a tough one, but it feels like it's going to be a low-scoring game, and whichever team takes better care of the football will win this one.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I feel like this game will look a lot like Pats Chargers, where defenses are flying around hitting each other, and I think both quarterbacks will probably be a little bit frustrated, and then it might take one play to kind of break it open. So I'm taking the Texans, and I'm kind of going along the lines of you, Brett, where the biggest thing for me is, can they keep CJ Stroud upright? I think the longer it goes, and if we keep hearing about TJ Watt or Hayward just getting in the backfield and hitting Stroud, then I think Pittsburgh has a good chance. If the Texans offense can, move the ball a little bit, I think they could win comfortably. It might be kind of an ugly, comfortable win, but that's how I need to see this offensive line, because we questioned it so much all season. I think late in the year they played a little bit better, but still not enough for me not to worry about them with, Tomlin, Pittsburgh, the fact that Tomlin hasn't lost a Monday night game like in forever. There's a reason for that. And that's what I got to see. I got to see DeMeco Ryans and his staff has his team ready for a Pittsburgh team that I think is actually coming into this kind of confident. They got that win over Baltimore. We saw Tomlin at the end of the game. The man was on cloud 9. How do they back that up? Why not knock off a Houston team that, kind of like Jacksonville, a lot of momentum's behind them coming into this matchup, and I think Pittsburgh is going to be ready to try to pull an upset, but I do have Houston kind of holding up and winning this one. Cog, I agree. It's good football weather. Like I think the forecast, there's a chance of like snow tonight. Great. Bring on a blizzard. I'll watch it.
I think that weather favors Pittsburgh if it's going to be 30 and a blizzard.
Yeah. I mean, Jaylen Warren, I was looking at the stats. He almost had 1,000 rushing yards. I know it's not that big of a deal, but you don't really think about Pittsburgh's running backs as, being effective this year, but almost 1,000 yards. So he's somebody that if it is a game where you need to run the ball, Jaylen Warren can be productive. It wasn't Sunday in Houston. I'd take the Texans. That's true. All right. So before I guess making divisional round picks, it's a fun little question for you. Who had the best weekend and who had the worst weekend? You can do player, team, coach. It is a wide open question. Just best weekend, worst weekend. Start with you, Brett.
Let's see. Who had the best weekend? I'm going to go with the team. I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers. This was a team that, quite frankly, I don't think anybody thought they'd be here. We thought might be competitive, but a lot of people didn't even peg them as a playoff team. I'll be the first to admit. I didn't. Injuries started piling up. I thought this team would fall apart, but not only did they keep it together, they knock off the defending champs.
So, Ian.
I think at the end of the day, with the biggest winner of this weekend, I'm going to go with, I'm going to shout out the 49ers. Obviously, I think you can throw the Bears in there as well. Comeback win over the Packers. Like, how can you not have them as your biggest winner? So I'm going to go with two teams. I'm going to go with the 49ers. Bears is the biggest winner. Biggest losers, Chargers offensive line. And I'd say Chargers offensive line and play calling, play action on 4th and 9 is just diabolical.
That's a bold choice.
Nobody's falling for the run fake at that point. Just hand the ball off. Like, What are you doing? But yeah, and of course, my biggest loser just forever is going to be Rich Bisaccia and Brandon McManus. Please ship them to Siberia tomorrow.
Okay. Ian, biggest winner, biggest loser of the weekend.
I got to agree with Brett on the biggest winner. I got to go with San Fran. I was watching the game, and when they got that first touchdown and went up 7-0 against the Eagles, I was like, oh, wow. I was actually kind of surprised. Along the same lines of what Gene was thinking, even though I chose the 49ers to win this weekend, like I was like, oh man, not feeling so good about this going into it. I always want to cheer against the division rival to get kicked out of the playoffs. But, they showed grit in that game on offense and defense. I mean, they had their backs against the wall and they came through both offensively and defensively, and got to give them all the credit in the world. As far as like biggest loser of the week, I would have to agree with Brett on the O-line for the Chargers, Greg Roman, play calling by Kevin Patullo, and just horrible Brandon McManus and Bisaccia. Just get rid of all of
them. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Did you see this report on who the Cowboys interviewed, by the way? I think you'll get a kick out of this. I have to share this because it's the funniest thing ever.
Okay.
Multiple sources confirm the Cowboys have made an interview request for Ravens defensive coordinator Zachary Orr. What are you interviewing that dude for?
Okay. We spent the whole season talking about the deficiencies of the Ravens defense. They're a more talented group than the Cowboys group, and that guy's going to come in and fix the Cowboys' issues? All right. Once again, that's a choice. Right?
Say it's going to be...
What's up, Mowgli? See, from Indianapolis, fly Eagles fly. Pains me to say after a loss, I'm not a sore loser. GG to the Niners, and congrats to the fans. Prayers up for Kittle. Yeah, Kittle tore his Achilles. That was a rough one.
I'll
It's
say
been like a year of Achilles injuries, but yeah.
Let me add TJ Edwards there too. I think he
Yeah.
fractured his leg or fibula, so hopefully TJ Edwards has a quick recovery, ready for training camp.
Mm-hmm. At least the Chargers still have their excuses to comfort them at night. Yes. DK single high coverage. Okay. Zach Orr getting interviews. Oh, that's hilarious.
Like you're going from Matt Eberflus refusing to come out of cover 3 to, if they gave the job to Zach Orr, him refusing to come out of a cover 2 shell prevent defense. Like, just the funniest interview candidate I think I've heard.
Give me Jim Leonard. Don't care about anybody else. All right. So for me, best weekend, I'm going to give it to a team that lost. I thought it was a great weekend for Carolina. They went up against the team. They had the largest odds against them. There was the biggest spread against them. They made the Rams sweat. They, you could come out of that game saying they were the better team and probably deserved to win, but maybe some inexperience hurt them. I think it's something that they can build off of and go into next year thinking that they could win that division and maybe make it tough once again on some of these NFC teams. Bryce Young, it was an important game for him to play well against a Rams defense that's gotten, a lot of praise, and he looked really good against them. So I'll give them the best weekend. And look, if you're in Carolina, hasn't been great. You have the Hornets that don't give you a lot to cheer about. At least the Panthers seem like they're heading in a positive direction. Worst weekend, there's a lot of places you could go. I think I'm just gonna go with this philosophy from this past weekend of teams just going for it on fourth down for like no reason all the time. Because we saw a lot of teams that had opportunities to take points, not use it, and then end up losing the possession and to come back and biting them in the end. The Chargers went through that early. You get an interception on the Patriots 10 after a deflection. You take the crowd out of it. You go for it on a fourth, you fail. The crowd's right back in the game. You don't know what a field goal does in that situation. We saw Ben Johnson going for it like crazy, and then he started taking field goals and then would go back to going for it on fourth, and we know he comes from that Detroit system, so I understand it. But in the playoffs, decisions like that can be, momentum killers and all that. So let's take the analytics out of it a little bit, kind of go more with the feel of the game and everything. And if you have points, take them. It's the playoffs. Like, don't throw that away. So that's the biggest loser. That mentality this weekend hurt some of these teams. All right. Carolina played competitively and looked like they were going to win. They did. Like what the Giants are building, they've got some pieces. That is true. I mean, we all agree that's a head coaching job that is not a terrible job to go on and take. Plus, you're in New York. You win with the Giants, like you get a lot of leash with that because it's New York. I'm tired of hearing Justin Herbert's a top 10 quarterback. Because Bogley, we asked this earlier if Herbert was a franchise quarterback. Maybe in the regular season, postseason, no. Okay. It's hard knowledgeable about winning playoff games. Okay.
Hey, I remember. I think I got some crazy looks before the year started. Before the year started, every year I do a predictive quarterback list just for fun. Mm-hmm. And I'll admit there's some really bad misses on there, just like all lists like that are going to have. But I had Justin Herbert chilling outside the top 10, and I got some really weird looks. But it still might be a little rough, but it feels a little more vindicated after that playoff game.
Yeah. No, I feel like there's a few quarterbacks that are like that when it came to quarterback rankings. Like a lot of people were all over the place on Love, Herbert, Goff, quarterbacks like that. So I don't think it's that big of a deal.
I remember the worst misses I've had probably being 32 and 31, ironically, which were Daniel Jones and Tyler Shuck. And then I predicted that J.J. McCarthy would be the 22nd best quarterback in the NFL, which I don't even know if he was the 33rd best quarterback in the NFL.
I mean, Tyler Shuck, I feel like a lot of people were wrong on that one. So
yeah. Yeah, he proved a lot of people wrong. I do love that the fact that they got Shuck in New Orleans.
Yeah.
I mean, especially like after like all those videos surfaced of him like at training camp with those horrible misses, just getting used to the getting in with the guys and trying to throw with the first team and just horrendous misses that he was having. It was like, wow, what a guy. And here he comes in and he's putting up great numbers for New Orleans. Got him on a five game win streak or four or 5 game win streak right before the end of the season when they lost against the Falcons. But I mean, he had a tremendous rookie season, and they're going to be great moving forward with him. And
no, yeah, I look, I agree. I'll say this. Yes, I agree with this. I would take Love over Herbert and Goff. Yes. Look, we'll probably do the same thing next year with try to rank quarterbacks, and some will make us look like fools, and some will be dead on with. And I know a lot of people looked at the end of the Saints season was like, oh, why would you win games? This doesn't even matter. For the Saints, it matters for next year because you can't tell Tyler Shuck, who a lot of people were doubting anyway, that those games didn't matter. Like, he's trying to put himself in position that the Saints view him enough that they don't necessarily look at the draft and go, oh, we have to get a quarterback. Let's get some other places, and we have Tyler Shuck. We'll go into next year. But we'll see if, he builds off of the end of last season. And maybe we stumbled into a guy that we can get behind for the next few years. You never know. So I do think what he did at the end of the season is very important. And I hope the Saints kind of value it because he looked like a pretty good quarterback.
And plus, I think people forget about some of these. When you're building a winning culture, you know what's an important aspect of building a winning culture? Winning.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just tank and lose every year and try to claim you're building a winning culture. That'd be like if I told you, I think the Cleveland Browns are building a winning culture. Like, they're not. So they're like some of these franchises are bad. Like, it'd be like if I told you, like, yeah, the Jets are close. They got a winning culture. Like, no, they don't. Guess what? They're forgetting the winning part. I do think that matters. Even if you're trying to lose and you want that high draft pick, I think you at least want to remain competitive and win some of these close games. Even if it costs you a couple spots in the draft. Guess what? Not all your quarterbacks, all your franchise quarterbacks go number one. Like, we got Patrick Mahomes got obviously drafted with, correct me if I'm wrong, pick 10. Love was picked at 25. Lamar was picked at 31. And these were all quarterbacks that, guess what? They were drafted into a winning culture and a winning franchise. And like I said, I just think people underrate the importance of the winning part in winning culture.
Yeah. Obviously, the mentality of it, too. Lose enough, a lot of guys just assume you're going to find ways to lose. Winning like that, you just never know how it could pay off next year. All right, so divisional round matchups. We know 3 out of the 4, but we know when they'll be played. So we'll go through these in order as well. We don't know the times yet, but we know the days. So next week we get 2 games on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. So the Saturday games, as the league has told us, will be Broncos, Bills, and Seahawks, Niners will be on Saturday. Sunday, we will get Pats and the winner of tonight's game, plus Bears, Rams. Okay. So let's start Saturday. Broncos, Bills. Obviously, Bills coming off of the comeback over the Jags. Broncos were sitting at home on their bye. And I feel like every year when you have this situation, you go, it's the team that played last week and won. Do they have the momentum coming in, or the team that rested and will be at home? We'll see how that plays out. Mile High Stadium, or whatever they call it, will Empower Field. I'm bad when they change names. I always go by what I knew it when I first got into football. It was Mile High. It'll always be Mile High. How do you see this one playing out between the Broncos and the Bills? I think it's a fascinating matchup. How does Josh Allen and that offense attack that Broncos defense? What does the offense look like with Bo Nix, where sometimes it looks like one of the best in the league, and other times they struggle to move the ball against the Bills defense? So who do you have winning this one? And we'll start with you, Ian.
I have the Bills winning this one. We saw this matchup last year. I know that the Broncos have gotten substantially better on defense since last year, but I think with how much Bo Nix has struggled this year at times, there's just no way that I can see that he pulls out a victory against Josh Allen and the Bills. Sean McDermott has been to the playoffs before. He's been in these situations before. He's going to come ready against the Broncos, and he's going to put together a hell of a game plan for them. And they're going to come in, and they'll probably beat him by double digits, I think.
Okay. All right. So you get the Bills winning easily. I'm not mad at that. All right, Brett. Do you agree that the Bills go in, get the win on the road, or the Broncos just too tough and Josh Allen and the Bills season ends this weekend?
I'll take the Bills. I think it'll be a close game. I think, once again, it's a problem pointed out with the Denver Broncos, right? The Denver Broncos' problem is their offense is really stop and go, and it's kind of been that way all year. I do think the Denver Broncos have obviously had a fantastic year. You can't take that away from them.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think that this will be a game that tests them in the sense that if we get the Denver Broncos that they come out and they play like they do against the Packers, where they get hot and they're, foot on the throat, probably works out for them. That being said, like I said, they had a great offense against the Cowboys. But if they do the thing where we've seen multiple times this year where they have to play from behind, I think Buffalo takes it home. At the end of the day, you can play from behind if you're facing like the Tennessee Titans. If you're facing the Jets, you can play from behind. You can play from behind against the Raiders, but in this scenario, if you're playing the Bills in a playoff game, they try to play from behind, and Buffalo's going to bury them. So I think that it will be a close game. I think they get off to a slow start, and they do the gimmick where they get hot late, but it'll be a little too late. So give me the Buffalo Bills winning a close game.
It's my Eagles on the 2 points we just missed. They should have won that game. Okay. This one's tough. Like, even with the Bills in the division, like I'm not one who like hates on Josh Allen. I like Josh Allen, and slamming you brought up. Josh Allen's development has been one that has been, pretty impressive. I, for some reason, wonder if the Gabe Davis injury, which, Gabe Davis is, a great wide receiver, but they say he tore his ACL, so he's obviously out. I'm kind of looking around like, do the Bills have enough against that tough defense to really probably score enough to make it uncomfortable for Bo Nix in the offense? Now, without Gabe Davis, obviously Keon Coleman, hopefully he has a week where he doesn't get in trouble with the team and he actually gets to play. But they do have Kincaid and Knox at tight end who are productive, and James Cook at running back. So they could be fine, but I got a weird feeling. I think the Broncos win this one. But I think it's going to be one of those where the Broncos do what they do. They'll get behind, and then late couple of drives, they'll get enough points to kind of catch up with the Bills and win it there in the end. Am I confident in it? Not necessarily, because Bo Nix could come out, pee down his leg, throw a few picks, and the Broncos could get blown out. I could see that too. But I think Peyton will have a game plan for Bo Nix. I think they'll ease Bo Nix into the game. Don't do anything too crazy with him. Give him some short, quick passes. Let him get into the flow of the game. Now, it isn't even his first time in the playoffs, so he does have the smallest of playoff experience, but I think he just has to get comfortable into this game and not get kind of caught up in the moment. I think Peyton will do that. I think the Broncos win a close, wildly entertaining game over the Bills. Like I said, not confident in it, but that's why I'm going with it.
No, that's fair, because I'm just sitting here like I don't think the Bills are going to let him get eased into the game. I think you're going to see a lot of early runs and short pass attempts by Peyton. But I think McDermott and the Bills are going to be ready for it. I think you're going to see a lot of blitzes, a lot of man, a lot of playing up in the box. They're going to pretty much tell Bo Nix, hey, look, you're going to beat us. You're going to consistently beat us throwing deep, which Bo Nix at times can be inconsistent at, throwing an intermediate to deep ball. So I do think that you're going to see a lot of heavy pressure right off the bat against the Broncos early.
Yeah. And where, Josh Allen can win a game with no running game, Bo Nix will need balance. So they're going to have to get somebody in that running back room to be effective against Buffalo. I don't even necessarily need like a lot of yards from the running game, but the amount of attempts I think will be important. Just I think like Bill Parcells used to say that, more so about attempts than yards. Like defenses have to at least think that you could run it from time to time. But all right, so you two have the Bills, I have the Broncos. We'll see. So the second game, Saturday, another divisional matchup. I think this one's gonna be a lot of fun as well. Seahawks and the Niners. Seahawks coming off the bye, obviously, as the 1 seed. Great season from them. Really great defense. Sam Darnold, another good year from him, but obviously the questions will remain until we see him perform here in the postseason. And the Niners are coming off, despite the Kittle injury, a big win over the Eagles. They're going to be confident going into this matchup. I believe they split the season series. So who wins the rubber match in this one? We'll start with you, Brett, on this one.
I'm going to go with the Seahawks. Last game we watched these two play, literally just 2 weeks ago, Seahawks had their number. They held that offense to 3 points. They lost George Kittle. I don't think it gets any easier for them. I think it'll be more competitive. I don't think the 49ers will just lose 20-3 like a couple weeks ago. But I do think that without Kittle, it's devastating. I don't think that they're going to be able to really get much of anything going against that Seahawks defense. At the end of the day, I think coaching and everything will keep it close. I think this will be a fun, competitive game, but I'm gonna pick Seattle to win this one.
Okay. Yeah, Ian, where are you going with this one?
I'm taking Seattle as well. I think Seattle's defense, what they showed against CMC the second time around, being able to limit him, they're going to try to do the same game plan. CMC's 49ers' best playmaker on offense. They're going to try to limit him, make sure that he doesn't get going, make Brock Purdy beat him, and I think that they're going to get home on the pass rush against Brock Purdy, pressure him. I think the Seahawks will take this one.
I agree. Clean sweep. I'm taking that defense against the 49ers. I think the 49ers will be game, will make it interesting, but I just don't see them making enough plays against that defense, which will be flying around at home, playoffs. Yeah, give me the Seahawks. And same, yeah, the neon green, that can't be the choice. I'd say go with the throwback, whatever color that jersey is from like the 80s, with the Steve Largents, we'll call them. Rock those. That's what I would say. I actually like the creamsicle. There's no winning behind them, but I actually like that jersey. Worst might be that Bumblebee Steelers one. I could not stand that jersey. I didn't get that one. All right, go ahead.
No, I'd say as long as they don't color coordinate them. Do you guys remember that one? I think it was a Christmas game between the Jets and Bills, and they were like bright green and bright red jerseys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, as long as they don't do that, or it might have been the Patriots. But anyway, just remember that game, just because the jerseys were an utter disaster.
The Oilers jersey is kind of fire. I agree with you, Mowgli. I think the creamsicles are fire. Okay, just the throwbacks. I was trying to think if there was another throwback. Yeah. Just that when I see that, I just think Steve Largent for whatever reason. Could have said Dave Craig. But Sunday. We'll start with, we don't know times, like I said, but just looking at this graphic. So Patriots will face the winner of Steelers, Texans. Since we don't technically know who they're going to face, which team poses the biggest threat to the Patriots? We'll use that as the question. Well, actually, no. Scrap that. I already know who you guys picked. So I guess for you, Ian, it would be Patriots or Texans. Brett, it'd be Patriots or Steelers. We'll just do it that way. So, Ian, who would you have?
I would have the Patriots winning this one. I feel like Vrabel has done a great job with this team and make sure that they're ready for games. Got a good defensive game plan for them going in. Really pressure CJ Stroud, and if you get the pressure on CJ Stroud and make him beat you, I think Drake May is the better quarterback in this situation. They're going to be able to beat the Texans.
Okay. Brett, Pats or Steelers for you?
You know what? I'll keep my bias out of it because at that point I'm just rooting for Aaron Rodgers, but I think the Patriots will win. Okay. If Aaron Rodgers does win, I think the NFL is script writers are dialing up the Rodgers versus Bears Super Bowl at that point. But no, I do think the Patriots win. At the end of the day, I just think the talent discrepancy between the two teams will be too much to overcome. Right, like. The the Patriots have have had a good offensive line that's been able to keep Drake May protected for the most part. Their defense is stout. They're very well coached. Drake May playing at an MVP level, even though his strength of schedule is weak. Sorry, I had to throw that in there, Kyle. But no, I do think the Patriots would beat the Steelers.
Well, we have the Steelers as a dark horse before the season. Okay. Probably one of the few, but that's an impressive pick. I'm not going to go with the Patriots because I just think with the defense that they brought out against the Chargers, I was impressed with the aggressiveness they showed on that side of the ball. And if it is the Steelers, they lost to them earlier in the year. I feel like that would be motivation enough for them to show the same kind of aggressiveness. Texans would be an interesting matchup because of what the Texans can do defensively, and that game might turn into another Pats Chargers game where it takes one play from either Drake May or CJ Stroud that wins it, and I would probably trust Drake May right now. Pats Steelers would be fun because of the history that the two franchises have against each other. Vrabel coached in Houston too. He did, yes. He knows what they try to do. That is a fair point as well. All right. The last game, Bears versus the Rams. Soldier Field once again. We'll be rocking. Stafford, you probably say got away with one against the Panthers. If he's erratic again, he does have the finger injury, which I believe he had an MRI on. Look, I'm going to assume he's going to be fine and ready to go. Bears coming off of the big emotional win over Green Bay. Ben Johnson has the team fired up, whatever. I still was laughing about that post game. Like, that man gets way too amped up, but hey, that's him. Who do you have winning this one? Bears or the Rams? Start with you, Ian.
Oof. No, I think it all depends on which Matt Stafford is going to show up. If he's going to be as errant as he's been, with the Bears being the team that has the most takeaways in the league. If they can get going and get Caleb going, this could easily go Bears. But if Matt Stafford comes in here, I mean, McVay's been on the opposite side of Ben Johnson before. He knows what he likes to call. He knows what plays he likes to create so that the offense can get going. If they can coordinate a good attack on defense against this Bears team, it's going to be close. But I do have the Rams winning this one, but it's going to be a really close game, I think.
All right. Brett, the team that knocked you out, you could now knock them out with the pick for the Rams, or do you think the Bears ride that Packers momentum and knock off the Rams as well?
I feel like if I say the Rams Rams when I'm just coming off as a hater.
Not necessarily.
No, I do think the Rams, and the reason why I think it's the Rams is I do think that while the Packers couldn't finish the job, I do think that they showed that you can get chunk yardage and big plays. Like they did show a good way in the first half to attack the Bears defense. I do think that the Rams watched obviously very closely. They're going to watch that film, and they're going to be able to develop chunk plays. But I think the T.J. Edwards injury just might be too much to overcome. Now you're going to have to trot out a backup linebacker to try to contain Kyron Williams. He's going to dial up some plays for the tight end. And these are a lot of guys at the end of the day that have been here before. You got Matthew Stafford, Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua was here before. You got a lot of experience. You got an elite offense that can expose the defense. And I really just don't think that the Rams obviously will unravel like Matt LaFleur and the Packers did. I think the Bears will keep it close. I think they'll be electric late. Soldier Field will be bouncing, but I think, as we saw at the end of the Panthers game, McVay will keep his composure, and he will let Matthew Stafford drive him down the field to win the game at the last second. So,
St. Louis boy never. Hey, I respect it. They stole your team, man. I get it. Because I could see this matchup where, like, if the Rams play the way they did against the Panthers, I think the Bears would beat them. I think if I'm the Bears, I look at what the Panthers did and putting pressure on Matt Stafford. I would look to kind of copy that. But like you said, Brett, I think the T.J. Edwards injury will be a big loss for that Bears defense. So I'm going to take the Rams with Adams, with Puka, who people know the ball's going to Puka. He still finds a way to get open. I think, maybe the Panthers game was the Rams getting a wake-up call and they kind of lock in for this matchup against a, quote-unquote, better team. I think the Rams get this one done, and we end up with, Rams Seahawks. So either way, a divisional matchup yet again in the AFC Championship game. Let's see. Kendricks might be the X factor to beating the Seahawks. This basically was Fred Warner yesterday. Thought it would be the 2022 NFC Championship rematch, Niners and Rams in LA. Okay. Appreciate that. That's kind of all I had for you. Making sure. I think that's all I had. So, yeah. Now, I did ask this. This was in the title. I guess we'll end on this one. Was it the greatest wildcard weekend that you could remember? I'm not going to say ever because long history. I'm not going to say I sat there and looked at every wildcard weekend and was like, oh, that was probably better. But is this the best one that you've seen probably in recent years?
I would think so. Like, what more could you really ask for? Like, you had you wanted defense, you like defense? You got it. You got it with the Patriots. You come from behind victories? You got it Saturday night. Like, genuinely, everything that you could have asked for happened. You want, an underdog giving you a scare? You got that with the Panthers. Like, it just feels like you couldn't have asked for anything more this wild card weekend. This definitely had to be one of the best wild card weekends.
Yeah. Ian, you agree?
Yeah, I agree. This wild card weekend was something to remember. All these games were intense. They were all pretty close. Minus the Chargers Patriots game, but they were all very close and could have been taken by either team late in the game. All games besides the Chargers Patriots were all decided by one score. Either team could have had it. It all came down to coaching and how disciplined everybody was going to be in those situations, and I couldn't have asked for a better weekend of football.
Yeah, divisional round will have a lot to live up to. Love the stat that they put up where at one point every team that was up at the 2-minute warning ended up losing. So, look, that would have made it even interesting if that would have happened and continued. Well, it wouldn't have been good for me as a Patriots fan because obviously they were up. But yeah, I thought the weekend had everything from young quarterbacks performing on the big stage. So, looking forward, you're like, okay, let's see if they, build off of that and become that much better. Like I said, well, Jory said, no blowouts. Even the Chargers Patriots game, like I wouldn't necessarily call it a blowout. Like it was just a late touchdown that made the score look that way. Like both defenses came to play, and I'm always of the mindset in the playoffs, give me defense. Like some people like high scoring games. I feel like keep that for the regular season. I love the defensive just matchups in the postseason. But here's a question: who do you think will the Giants pick up for their head coaching job? Now we did go over this like last week, but Vasco, appreciate you coming through. Ian, you are the Giants fan on the panel. I guess give Vasco your dream hire.
My dream hire would probably be out of the coaches that are available or John Harbaugh. From what I've heard, there's this guy that is an insider for the Giants, and he's been right about a lot of the hires that they have. And so far, what he's heard is that John Harbaugh wants the Giants head coaching job. So if that's true, we'll see John Harbaugh in New York next year, which I wouldn't be opposed to at all. So if it goes that way, I'll be happy. If we get somebody else like Stefanski or Kubiak, I'd be happy as well.
AJ Brown should go to New England, Baltimore, or the Bills. He'll be. Baltimore does. I mean, it would be the Baltimore thing to do. They did it with OBJ, DeAndre Hopkins. Why not go get AJ Brown? And then at the end of the year, we're like, bit of a waste. But I see what you're saying, Jackson. I see what you're saying. Hey, appreciate that, Sidon. No problem.
I'm telling you guys, you're going to get all the trade rumors, but I'm still predicting. I still think he's going to be an Eagle when the season roll tips off next year or first kickoff. At the end of the day, I don't think the Eagles are really about, they don't save cap space. It's a negative $20 million hit if they trade him. So I'm telling you, I think he still is going to be an Eagle next season.
Baltimore doesn't have a coach right now. Yes. Coleman, Booty, and Bateman are all not good enough. Don't know if Buffalo wants another diva at wide receiver. Well, I mean, look, they told us Patriots fans that Diggs was this big diva, and he's come in and been like one of the leaders in the group. Situations can kind of dictate, how these players act, but I get what you're saying there, Jackson. I just want to put this one up again. Let's go, John. Yeah, let's go, John, to the Giants to beat up on the bum Cowboys. So, Cowboys fans, you can rebut that if you want. What's going on, Daniel? But, yeah, so that's all we got. Appreciate all of you in the chat. Really do. Make sure you are back here next Monday where we will be breaking down the divisional round, which unfortunately will mean we're another week closer to the Super Bowl and the football season ending. I know we've been football heavy, but I will say, we do actually talk NBA as well. We will start working that in because we will have to talk about, Brett as a Bucks fan, the Giannis rumors that are persistent. It was kind of funny seeing Sean's break the Trae Young rumor. I was like, oh, Sean knows other players than Giannis. He just loves, tweeting about Giannis. But we'll have to talk about Trae Young at some point once the NFL season kind of slows down. And hopefully by then some other moves would have happened in the NBA as well. But yeah, anything you guys want to add before we get out of here?
I'll say thank you guys for tuning in. Definitely appreciate it. Really excited to see a lot of new faces. I hope to see you guys back next week, and maybe in the meantime, check out some of our other great shows that we got going on here.
Exactly. Ian, anything you want to add?
No, just thanks for everybody for tuning in and see that there's a lot of new people in the chat, so it's good to see. Keep coming back.
Appreciate that, Mowgli. brought in somebody new. It is a pretty cool channel. The outro will show you some of the other shows as well. I was gonna say, look, those divisional lines are strong. I would say the same thing about the Jets, so I'm not even gonna lie.
At least you don't got to worry about the Jets in the playoffs for a while, right?
And I sleep well at night knowing that they're over there in misery. So I love it. But like I said, check out the other shows on the network. I know for like myself and Brett, Sideline to Sideline, we'll be back on here. I'm on here Friday as well with Jory and Key for Passion and Precision. So make sure you check out those. You have the morning show as well. So if you get up early in the morning, you need your sports talk, come right back to the channel and you'll get your fix. So once again, appreciate all of you. Really do. Hit the like button, subscribe, and make sure you come back, check out the other content. So until next week, for myself, Ian, and Brett, not guarding the 2, guarding the 3, we're out of here. See you all next week.